Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Golden Aces Nation podcast. Flying solo this week. Scott Allen's off on vacation. I'm Kyle Peach. Glad you're checking in with us here tonight. We're so glad to have you along. Coming up, we're going to recap the Aces' loss at Casey Westfield this past Saturday. Also, we'll look ahead to the Aces' final home game of the regular season, the matchup with the Marshall Lions. We'll talk about the Cal Preps projections for that game, as well as the big game of the year in the LIC, the Battle of Unbeatens. Olney and Casey square off on Friday night. We'll talk about that one too. We've also got a segment about Mount Carmel girls golf preparing to start their quest for yet another state championship in golf. They are in Decatur. They had a practice round today. We'll talk to you about that and give you their tee times as the tournament gets underway on Friday. We'll talk a little cross country. The Mount Carmel Junior Aces set to make history this weekend, heading to their first junior high state championship tournament in cross country. We'll give you the details on that. Plus, a very special segment from the Hall of Fame weekend. We had the chance, Scott Allen did, to sit down with Sharon Miller. Sharon Lee Miller goes now by Lee, but in his high school days, Sharon Miller, the great quarterback, the legendary quarterback of Mount Carmel. Scott Allen recorded an interview with him over the Hall of Fame weekend. He goes one-on-one with the former Aces great. We'll have that interview for you here. We'll hear from Aces coach Michael Brewer and more here on the Golden Aces Nation podcast this week. Let's start things off, though, by looking back to Saturday night's matchup at Casey. And again, this just kind of had the feel going into it that Casey was gunning for us hardcore. Mount Carmel would fall in that game 50-14. It started so well. The Aces got off to a great start. They recovered a pooch kick to start the game. So we're going to be on defense, but recovered the special teams kick and got to go on offense. Put that drive on the opening drive into the end zone for a touchdown and took a 6-0 lead. Shockingly to many, Mount Carmel lined up for an extra point. Unfortunately, the snap went awry, so the Aces didn't get their first official PAT try off the ground, so to speak, for the season, but they had a 6-0 lead. The defense then came out and got a huge stop on the opening drive for Casey, forced them to 3-and-out and punt, and the Aces had the ball back and a chance to go for a 2-score lead. But things at that point just kind of went Casey's way, and the Warriors go off for a 50-14 win in that one. For Mount Carmel, leading the way on the rushing attack was actually the quarterback Shane Metter, who had 82 yards rushing on 14 carries and a score. Elliott Akery carried it 20 times for 72 yards. We saw a change in personnel as we saw Jackson Kling move up to the line to fill an injury vacancy there. We also saw Mount Carmel go to the air a little bit more than we had seen previously. Officially, Shane Metter goes 3 of 9 through the air with an interception and 56 yards, but we did see a couple of lateral passes that actually go down in the stats as rushing yards. So Mount Carmel kind of mixing things up a little bit with Casey, so trying to find some different ways to move the football. All told, the Aces ended up with, let's see, 276 yards of total offense. They allowed Casey 145 on the ground and 288 through the air. So Casey was allowed 433 yards of total offense. Things kind of got out of hand from Mount Carmel, and I think you could make an argument that the last score by Casey to get to that 50-point mark might have been excessive, but hey, it's a Casey team that had never beaten Mount Carmel. I think they felt like they had the Aces number a year ago, and this is yet another young team that is going to be around for a while that Mount Carmel's going to have to contend with. We talked with Aces coach Michael Brewer about the loss after the game.
Coach, thoughts after this one?
Credit to Casey. They're a good football team, and we're more physical than us. We're more, just dialed into their responsibilities and doing things correctly. And they physically beat us up and out-executed us as well.
Well, Coach, you got to love the way the game started. I don't think the game could have started any better for us. The opening kickoff recovered, marching down and score, three and out for them defensively, and just how you dial up the start of the game.
Yeah. So off to a good start, and we've had throughout the year we've had our moments where even in the games we've lost where we've done some good things, but just doing a little bit here and there doesn't cut it. So we got to put together full games and complete games and be in it for the whole thing, and so we have to just do a better job of being assignment correct, especially. But again, tonight we just weren't even physical enough either, so we didn't have any of the components that we needed tonight.
Coach, as you look at where we are now in the season, I'm sure part of the message to your team after the game was it's time, because we're out of time. There is no more mistake. There is no more loss at this point. Otherwise, our season ends at the end of week 9.
Yep. So, you got to go win the next 2. You have no choice. There's no more gimmies on our schedule. I think, we have to go play well. And so we're going to have to get that part figured out within our group, within our coaching staff and the players. There's got to be ownership of mistakes. And we got to get those things figured out. And I told them we got to move on pretty quick. But we have to do this as a group and as a team. And so it can't be finger pointing. Well, you didn't do your job right. You know what I mean? Like we have to go do this together as a team. We got to, and that's the way you're going to turn it around, right? Is rallying together and doing it as a group. So that's kind of what it's got to be the next 2 weeks. We got to rally together. And go play football. The way we're capable, the way we've been taught. And, go get us 2 wins here.
Some adjustments, I think, from us tonight. A few different sets. Kind of look to spread it out a little bit at times, I think.
Yeah. So we got into the gun a little bit. That was a new look for us this year. So I think that freed up Shane a little bit to use his skill set maybe a little bit better. And so, I just kind of a balancing act throughout the year, trying to figure out what's going to give you the best shot tonight. They were really good in the box. They had good, the linebacker play was excellent, and their defensive linemen were pretty good too. So they were really good there, and so it was tough sledding inside. So just something to change it up and see if we could get something going.
4th year in the league, and Marshall makes its first trip to Riverview Stadium on Friday night. This is a Lions team that is better than I think they have been. 2 wins.
Yeah, they keep getting better. Steve Weber does a good job. He's a guy that's had a lot of success at some different places and is improving this Marshall team. So they're scoring points. They're hanging in there and playing close ball games. And again, if anybody on our side thinks that we have a gimme left on the schedule, they're mistaken. So we're going to have to prepare well, and we're going to have to play well. And that's what's going to take here for 2 more weeks.
Coach, thanks for the time. We'll see you next week.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
So the Aces fall at Casey. That was Michael Brewer's comments to us after the broadcast on Saturday night, I should say, in Casey. The Aces now, by the way, over 2,000 yards of total offense on the season, 2,094 total yards. Of that, 1,913 yards on the ground. The Aces have totaled 181 yards through the air. Getting you set now for the Aces matchup Friday night with Marshall. And, when you hear Marshall, you think lopsided score. That's because that's what the Aces have done in the 3 times they've played the Lions. By the way, incidentally, oddly, all 3 of those games were played in Marshall. Once because the Aces were renovating the Riverview Stadium turf and it wasn't ready for us to host a game. So Marshall hosted 3 straight years in this matchup. It will be the Lions' first trip to Riverview Stadium on Friday night, and this will be the best Marshall team we've seen in the 4 times now that we will play them, as this is a 2-5 Marshall team, a team that struggled to find wins in their previous few years. Mount Carmel 3-0 all-time. We had a 61-0 win in 2021, a 53-0 win in 2022, and in the rain, they scored on us in 2023, 48-21. But again, this is going to be a little bit different of a Marshall team. You heard Michael Brewer in his comments say there are no cakewalks on the Aces schedule. And if you think we're going to run away with any of these remaining games, you're going to be sadly mistaken. The Lions actually went 3 years without a win from 2020 through 2022 before the arrival of their new head coach, now in his 2nd year, Steve Weber. And he's really kind of turning this program around. They got a win last year. The last winning season for the Marshalls was for the Lions. The Marshall team was back in 2017. And oddly enough, I think Mount Carmel, because of our short history with Marshall, don't realize how good Marshall used to be. Prior to the 2019 season, the Lions had 29 playoff appearances in a 44-year stretch. The playoff drought they're in since 2017 is the longest playoff drought in school history, and they have a 5.72 win percentage all time in varsity football. So this is a Marshall team that has a proud tradition, I think prouder than maybe many Mount Carmel fans give them credit for, given our recent track record. But some players to watch and some things to watch. So their wins came against Trenton Westland on opening night, 27-21. They beat Lawrenceville last week, 33-10. So they're putting some points on the board. If you want to compare scores, they lost to Casey at home 42-0, and that's a rivalry game for them. That's an inter-county rivalry matchup. So Mount Carmel lost to Casey 50-14. Marshall lost to Casey 42-0. The Robinson score was 15-12 Robinson. Marshall almost nipped the Maroons. The Aces beat Robinson 44-13. 56-21 was the Marshall loss to Olney. The Aces loss was 36-6. So there's a lot of similarity, some lopsidedness too, a lot of difference, I guess we would say, in the comparison of the two teams and their common opponents. But this is a Marshall team that the Aces are going to have to be ready for. So the Lions have rushed for over 1,000 yards as a team on 265 carries, but they've also outstatted the Aces in the passing game, 855 yards, completing 63 of the 129 passes they've thrown. But here's something the Aces can take advantage of. Their quarterback is Trey Scott. He's thrown 127 of the 129 passes, but he's thrown 14 interceptions. So the Aces will be, the secondary should be prime for a pickoff perhaps on Friday night when the Lions come calling. Also, their offense has fumbled 11 times, losing 5 of those. Defensively, Marshall has just 7 turnovers, 5 fumble recoveries, and 2 interceptions. So the Aces can try to take advantage of Marshall's ability, propensity, I guess we would say, to kind of turn the ball over a little bit. That might be key for us. Some players to watch. Obviously, the quarterback, Trey Scott, who's also rushed the ball for 64 times on the year, 121 yards. Their leading rusher is Luca Gianvola, who has carried it 132 times for 679 yards and 12 touchdowns. He's also caught 4 passes on the year. Their leading receiver in terms of yardage is Ben Harper, 11 catches, 192 yards. Actually, he's second to Gavin Bowden, who's caught 18 balls for 351 yards and a touchdown. Also, Caden Sanders, another principal receiver, 15 catches, 180 yards for him as well on the season. So that's kind of the setup for Marshall. They will mix the run and pass. They do have a little bit of a propensity to turn the ball over, something that the Aces might be able to take advantage of on Friday night. Now, we'll have live coverage of that game for you on News Channel 15's YouTube page. On the radio side on WSJD, Scott is back Friday night for the game, so he'll be along for that one. I will as well, and we'll be happy to see you from the Snake Pit on Friday night. Also, senior night to honor the Aces seniors, so get to the Snake Pit and support that as well. Let's talk a little bit about some legends in high school football. Back on Hall of Fame weekend, when the Aces played at home against the Olney Tigers, we had the chance to induct the next class of the Mount Carmel High School Athletic Hall of Fame. And among those Hall of Famers that were inducted, legendary quarterback of the 1960s, Sharon Miller. Sharon Lee Miller, goes by Lee now, was Sharon, his first name, given first name when he played football in Mount Carmel. But Lee was a great quarterback. He's in the Western Kentucky University Hall of Fame. He was the MVP of the bowl game that WKU played in his senior season. So a pretty high pedigree there, wouldn't you say, for Sharon Lee Miller. Maybe one of the first quarterbacks in Aces history to really succeed at throwing the football. And Scott Allen had a chance to talk with Sharon Lee Miller, after the football game out at the Hall of Fame reception at Stymie's Rest at West Berwick, following the game back on Hall of Fame weekend. We want to replay for you now that entire interview that Scott had with Sharon Lee Miller.
So tell everybody, first of all, just your reaction to being inducted and what it means to you.
It's great. People think that you're good or you're a little above average, at least. Coach Mount Carmel, quarterback of an undefeated team there, and then I'm the quarterback of an undefeated team there. So I feel like it wasn't floozy just to do one year and But anyway, I really was happy. I still talk to Johnny Klein. He was my fullback. He got out and blocked for me when I was running the ball. I don't know if you remember Johnny Klein or not, but he's in New Mexico. Still stay in touch with Richard Timbard's son. He was a center who I called. When he went to Western with me, the coach was trying to get him to hike the ball to the punters at Western. And he said, I never did do that. He said, you mean Mount Carmel didn't punt the ball and we didn't punt it? we tried to run it or pass it or whatever. But anyway, it's great. It's great.
Tell us, first of all, for everybody here, tell us about playing for Jim John, first of all.
Jim was a psychology teacher, and he used to, one of his most famous saying was, you're laboring under a misconception. If you think we can beat this team and it'll be easy, you're laboring under a misconception. And he said that at least 2 or 3 times a day. But he tried to, I shouldn't say this, but he tried to get us to throw up every day. He ran, we did, and he tried to get us sick. Anyway, I was one of the captains, and after practice was over, we ran up that stadium wall, not the steps, but up the wall, the earthen part came down, ran up again. We showed him, you can't get us out of shape, you know. I mean, you're not going to make us throw up. So Jimmy Johns was a psychology teacher, and he was very, very, very good.
Well, I was going to ask a question about running up and down the stadium steps, because, you know, in the modern era, kids don't do that anymore, right? Yeah, I think the coach would get put in jail if he did it nowadays. I'm not sure, for cruel and unusual punishment, right? But, right, gym classes used to do that, too, at Mount Carmel, right?
Yeah. It was going up the earthen part of it, if we had our spikes on. And that was one reason we went up the earthen part, because if you'd had your spikes on going up down those stadium steps, you'd have wore your spikes out one day. The guys really love doing that.
Well, now tell us about Western Kentucky now. Time in Bowling Green.
Okay, at that time, Western was all on the hilltop. And it was about 8,000 to 9,000 students. And they had a stadium that seated about 8,000. And Western was just, it was a mid-sized college, but with us going undefeated, we got to play in the Tangerine Bowl and won the Tangerine Bowl. So Western was one of the best experiences of my life. My wife chased me all over that hill for 4 years.
It took 4 years, did it? Is that it?
I finally let her kiss me.
Yeah, the Tangerine Bowl, that was pretty amazing for Western Kentucky to end up in that bowl, too, because that was a big bowl there for a while.
Well, back in those days, there were 4 bowls. There were Rose, Sugar, Cotton, and Orange Bowl. And then there was a mythical small college championship bowl called the Tangerine Bowl. It wasn't official mythical small college championship, but anyway, we won it 27-0, and we felt like we were pretty much the small college champions. Nothing was in writing about that, but the Tangerine Bowl was a mythical small college championship.
You know, Western Kentucky's got NIL money. How much could you have made back in the early '60s there with NIL at Western Kentucky?
You know, I'm not real happy with all the stuff that's going on with the pros. You know, you get a basketball player or a football player to come up, and the basketball player may shoot free throws. And you say, well, he played at Houston last night. He was on the team in Houston, and then 6 months before that, he was on a team in Florida or whatever. So back in the day when we were there, you had to lay out 1 year. If you left Western, you couldn't go any place and play for a full year. And I just like that better myself. I just think that it's not good what they've done all state.
So, Sharon, where do you live now?
We live about 3 miles north of the Ohio River at Louisville, Kentucky, is below the river, and we're in southern Indiana. We're in a little chain of mountains called Floyd's Knobs, and it's just a little set of knobs that you can drive along, and you can see the whole little skyline at night. But it's a pretty nice little area.
Well, we are so honored you're here, and thank you very much. We're glad to make you a part of the Mount Carmel High School Hall of Fame, and we love Jim John, and you've been in the history books, and there are a lot of people's thoughts and prayers over the years too, just for what you did for Mount Carmel football. So thank you very much for being here.
I appreciate that, and I'm gonna try to keep walking and moving as long as I can. Hopefully. Another 10 years.
Let's hear it for this guy, Sharon Miller, everybody.
Great conversation with Scott and Sharon Lee Miller there for you, the former Aces great, now Hall of Famer. And we've got more Hall of Fame interviews with these legends that have been enshrined in the Mount Carmel High School Athletic Hall of Fame, sponsored by the Sports Boosters. We have those coming in future weeks for you right here on the Golden Aces Nation podcast. As we start to wrap things up for the night, let's take a look at some other things going on around Mount Carmel High School athletics, and of course, all the buzz this week, high school girls golf. The Mount Carmel girls golf team is set once again to compete for another state championship. Their fourth in a row. How about that? 4-time champions they could be if they win the tournament this weekend up in Decatur at Red Tail Run Golf Course. Now, Carmel played a practice round this morning, Thursday morning, up in Decatur. It's a 36-hole, 2-day state final starting tomorrow morning. So Mount Carmel's tee times look like this. Miranda Kennard will tee off at 9:24 a.m. Elise Swanson will follow at 9:33. Ava Brummagem at 9:42. Miley Kennard tees off at 9:51. Zimmy Moore follows at exactly 10 a.m. And Emily Gottman will tee off at 10:09 Friday morning. Mount Carmel is playing in a bunch with University High School in Chicago, Rock Ridge High School out of Taylor Ridge, and Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin. So that's the pairing for Mount Carmel on the Friday. So we wish them the best of luck. We hope that we're talking to the state champions again next week right here on the Golden Aces Nation podcast. Again, that's Indicator Friday and Saturday. And by the way, go to Red Tail Run Golf Course. Be a spectator. No charge to go do that. Support the Lady Aces this weekend. Also, soccer is in postseason play. The Golden Aces by seed are in the Final Four already at the Massac County Regional site. The Aces will play on Saturday afternoon at Massac County. Unfortunately, the tough draw for the Aces puts them against the host Patriots of Massac County. Mount Carmel is the 8th seed. Massac County is the 3 seed. That game on Saturday afternoon in Metropolis is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The championship, should the Aces pull off the seed upset there, will be back at Massac County High School soccer field on Tuesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we wish the Aces soccer team the best of luck there. Meanwhile, the Mount Carmel Lady Aces volleyball team is on the march toward the end of the regular season. Of course, the Aces come up with a second place finish in the Little Illini Conference, falling in that de facto championship matchup with Newton last week. They did go on to beat Paris in league play to wrap up play in the LIC. Mount Carmel with wins, a win over Grayville this week. They lost in straight sets to a very good NCOE ball club, a state-ranked team there. They've got the big Edwards County tournament this weekend. Then next week, they'll be at Wayne City, and then they'll conclude things with Red Hill at home next week to wrap up the regular season before regional tournament action gets underway for the Lady Aces volleyball team. We'll keep you posted on their pairings as well. Cross country, they are getting set for postseason action as well on the 26th, Matt McCarty's team. And speaking of cross country, how about the junior high cross country team? For the first time In school history, Mount Carmel's cross-country team is running at the state tournament. The SIJHSAA state tournament is this weekend, and we wish Coach McCarty and the junior high cross-country team all the best, and we'll have those results for you here next week as well. Boys golf season is done. We're starting to check the sports off here as well. That's going to do it for this week on the Golden Aces Nation podcast. Hope you enjoyed me being here solo with you. I'm not going to tell a Scott story because Scott's not here and can't defend himself, but he'll be back next week, returning from vacation. He'll be with me in the booth for the Aces game Friday night against Marshall. And I said we'd talk about it. How about that matchup quickly between Alney and Casey Friday night, the battle of the unbeatens in the LIC, in essence, the de facto conference championship game. Let me run through those Cal Preps projections for you very quickly. We told you Mount Carmel and Marshall is going to be a lot closer, I think, than many Aces fans would give Marshall credit for. Cal Preps calls it a Mount Carmel win, projecting the final of 28-18. The Casey Alney game, the Cal Preps projection is as close as Cal Preps can project it. 35-34 Alney. I'll tell you, as an Aces fan, and I don't want to upset my friends in Alney, but having seen the Aces play both Casey and Alney, I think I'm tipping the scale a little bit toward the Warriors of Casey Westfield. I think they play better defense. I think they might be a little more physical, but obviously the big play capability of the Alney quarterback, Gavin Cawthorn, will be a big factor in the game. Expect that one to be high scoring, I think. It's in Alney. I probably would say that I'm an Alney fan for the game. I want the Tigers to win it. But my heart says Alney. My head says I think Casey wins that one by a touchdown. We'll see Friday night. Other league games, Lawrenceville's at Newton. Cal Preps projects a Newton 31-10 win. And Robinson is at Paris, with Robinson narrowly projected to win that one by Cal Preps 31-28. Okay, now we're done. We'll see you next week here on the Golden Aces Nation podcast. Go Lady Aces! Win that state championship this weekend. Go Aces football Friday night. Soccer Aces in the regional Saturday. Root 'em on, Aces fans, and we'll see you next week.